This video is to show you how to create item receipts for POs with serial or lot numbers. To start this video off, I'm going to go into my list of templates. And to do so, we're going to go to the switch that says start with a template, turn it on. So now, because I'm going to create brand new item receipts off of a PO, I'm going to go down to where it says create new records with template. And from here, if I want to sort this, I can sort it by name. So in this case, I'm going to be selecting this template that says create new IR for POs. But before I load this onto a template or a sheet, I'm going to edit this to show you what type of fields I've added into the template. So if you haven't created a template yet, you would just go in through this option to select which fields you want to add. But for demo purposes, I already have some of these fields selected. So here I'm going to click on add fields, and it's going to bring me to the list of templates or list of fields I've already added onto the template. So for header level, I have the created from, which is in reference to the PO. We have the entity, which is the vendor field. And then at the bottom right here, you can see that there's an item sublist, and that's going to have the item received, which is a true false checkbox. We have the order line, and this is in reference to the PO line ID number. And then all of the other item list fields, which is the item, quantity, location. Replace all is optional. Basically, the replace all is, say, for instance, you want to do a partial receipt. If you mark it as false, you're telling the system that we're not updating all of the other lines within the PO itself. So now when it comes to the inventory detail, so the inventory detail is where you would add in, you're going to receive in either a serial number or a lot number or bins being associated with the items. And these fields here is going to be under the inventory assignment sublist, which is under the inventory detail. So now that I have all of my fields here, I'm going to click on continue, click yes, and it's going to load my template onto the worksheet. So before I hit save and enter data, you do have an option to name this template based off of the operation that you're trying to perform. And then when it comes to the description, it'll let you know, hey, this particular item receipt template has these particular fields, and it'll let you know also what kind of action that you're trying to perform. So in this case, I'm going to create or update my item receipts. So now moving forward, if you ever want to load your item receipt template, you can just go into a blank tab, and you can see that the start with template, switch it on, select either the search and download or create new records. And when you do so, it's going to bring you the option of the template that you have created or updated. As you can see right here, it brings up the item receipt template, and you can load that template onto your tabs or worksheets. All right, so now that we have our IR template saved onto our CloudExtend session, I'm just going to delete this tab. We're not going to need this. And for demo purposes, I already have the purchase order information already loaded on the tab. So I'm going to go into my PO tab, and you can see that this is going to be one PO that we are going to be creating an item receipt for. There's going to be 2 items associated with it, and each of the item has a quantity of 10. And when it comes to these 2 items are serialized inventory items. So when it comes to receiving these 2 items, we need to make sure that we apply serial numbers for those 10 quantities for each of these items itself. All right, so for demo purposes, I already have the information that I need for the item receipt to be filled out. So I'm going to copy and paste it and explain to you what I just filled out. So here in the created from field, you can see that this PO number right here is in reference to the PO tab of the transaction ID. And then when it comes to the true false field for the item received, I mark it as true for all of the items. And then when it comes to the order line, you can see that has a number 1 and then also a number 2 for the LG and the Samsung. So if I go back to the PO, that is in reference to the line ID of the 2 items that we're going to receive for. So now when it comes to the item, we want to make sure that we repeat it 10 times to let the system know, hey, this is going to be just one item for a quantity of 10. And then same thing with the Samsung and the quantity of 10. The location, we're going to repeat it because it's going to be in the East Coast warehouse for both of the items. And then if I go to the right a little bit further, you can see that I am going to receive and add in brand new serial numbers. And right here for the first 10, that's going to be for the LG. And then the next 10 is going to be for the Samsung. And then for all of these quantities right here, this is going to be totaling up to a quantity of 10 for the LG, and then same thing when it comes to the Samsung. All of this quantity of 1 will equal to 10 for the Samsung item. All right, so now that we have our data filled out in the item receipt template, we're going to scroll back to the left, and on the left-hand side, we have the internal ID column. And this is reserved specifically when you are creating a brand new record, or if you already have an existing record, you can plug that internal ID here in this column, and it will allow you to return that data when you do a reload. But in our case, we are uploading the data back into NetSuite and creating a new record. So NetSuite will generate a brand new internal ID in green and repeat itself because this is just one record that we're trying to create. So now we're going to go to upload, and we're going to do an upload records. And in just a sec, you're going to see that when we do an upload, it reads the table. So in this case, it's reading cell A3 all the way to N22. So in just a sec, you're going to see the internal ID return back in green in column B. So once it returns the internal ID, we're going to go into NetSuite to confirm that the upload and creation of this brand new item receipt has been loaded properly. All right, so now you see the internal ID return back in green. So let's actually go into NetSuite and go into that purchase order. And we're going to refresh this page. So in just a sec, you're going to see that the pending receipt status is going to be updated to pending bill. And if we go down to related records, you're going to see that the receipt that we just created. And if I drill down into it, we're going to dive deeper to make sure that everything has loaded properly. So as you can see, the LG and the Samsung item has been uploaded. And then when it comes to the quantity, it's a quantity of 10. And then the inventory detail. So if I drill down into that, you're going to see that both of them has all of the serial numbers that we have added. Same thing with the Samsung. As you can see, it loaded all the serial numbers from 1 to 20. So in a different scenario, let's just say we're going to use the same purchase order, but within this purchase order, we appended 20 different items or added 20 different items to the purchase order. And then for each item, there is going to be a quantity of 1. And then also the line ID has been updated from 1 and 2 to all the way to 20. So we're going to add that to the item receipt template. So we're going to go into the template. Before I go any further with the next scenario, I do want to mention that I removed and deleted that previous item receipt. And we are going to create a brand new item receipt for the same purchase order. And as you can see, the created from remains the same. The item received is true. The order line I added in sequential order from 1 to 20. The items are going to be 20 different items. Quantity is going to be 1 for each of the items itself. Location is the same. And then for the serial numbers, I updated for each of the lines. So it's going to be serial number 1 all the way to 20 for all of the 20 different items that we have. And then when it comes to the quantity, that hasn't really changed. That basically, this now is going to be a quantity of 1 for each of the quantity of 1 for the items. All right, so now that we have all that information, we're going to go into the right-hand side where it says upload to NetSuite, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do an upload records, and we're going to scroll back to the left a little bit just to confirm that when it does create the internal ID, it's going to return back in green for each of the each of the rows right here. So the internal ID is going to remain the same. It's going to be 1 internal ID throughout all the rows, because this is still considered one item receipt that we're generating and creating it to associate it to the purchase order. Okay, perfect. So now that the internal ID has been generated, let's go back into that purchase order inside of NetSuite, refresh the page, and the receipt is going to be changed from pending receipt to pending bill. And then you can see that I have all the 20 items within this purchase order. But going back to related records, we're going to drill down into that one. And once we drill into this, you can see that I have all the items here. Quantity is 1. Drill down into the inventory detail. And you can see that the serial number I've added is going to be loaded there. This concludes our video on how to create item receipts for POs with serial and lot numbers. If you need further assistance, please visit our website at support.cloudextend.io.